All right. And I'm going to mute everybody, but remember, you are always welcome to unmute at any time for any reason or for no reason. All right. And on go at least a pair of glasses. And we're in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. About 7 pages later than last week. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 pages in from the beginning of the chapter of the master and his injured arm. Okay, just a moment here. I've lost my place now. Where do you have us? Does anybody have us at a place? I'm in my massive flipping around to find out where we were in relationship to everything else. I've now lost my place. Anybody have a sentence? Otherwise, we'll figure it out here. But
well, I have 388 and 389, but I don't know if you're further along than that. Oh, are you on Sunday, February 24th, 1884, or are you not there yet?
Sunday, what, 24th? What
4th,
month?
1884, yeah.
January?
February
24th. Let's see.
So are you not there yet, or have you passed that?
Well, I'm checking here.
Because I have about 2 pages before that, 3 pages.
Oh, yeah, I think it's before that because we're not in chapter 19 yet.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
No, I still have us in the master and his injured arm.
Okay. Maybe I went over a page without knowing it. Oh, yeah. No, my computer went back a chapter for some reason. All right, just a second. There we go. Master. Aha. Is that what you have?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's 389. Yes.
Yeah. So,
yes.
Okay, so we're on page 389. And they were just singing a song. The master has been in samadhi, of course, as he often is, zipping up there to say hi to Ma in a very personal way quite regularly. And he's regained consciousness of the outer world and took his seat. And Mahima began singing to him a song describing the love of God. And I'll just read the last verse of that song. And the master, at the end of it, is again just sitting on the edge of ecstasy. Just unable to process the bliss that he's feeling. O Brahman, O my child, cease from practicing further penances. Hasten to Shankara, the ocean of heavenly wisdom. Obtain from him the love of God, the pure love praised by devotees, which snaps in twain the shackles that bind you to the world. And so we see a couple of the things in here that we've talked about. This idea of practicing further penances. The penances are not the point of religion. Friendship with the divine, an intimacy with the moment, with this moment, with God, the I am, intimacy with your own sense of being in the moment. This is the point of religion. It's not the practices, it's not the beliefs, the doctrines, the dogmas. Those we have plenty of from any tradition, and you can use any of them to reach the divine. The things that we're concerned with are much more principle-oriented, that your effort has to be sincere and earnest. That sincerity means that it's what you would be doing if you were given the choice of doing anything. So you're sincere in that extent, and to the degree you're committed to it, that's your earnestness. So you really want to be in there with a strong aim and a strong arm in order to kind of move forward because the old habits of mind are constantly trying to trip us up and convince us that we're separate and apart from the whole, let alone separate and apart from God, which is all the illusion of egoism. That and egoism and Maya are the same. Maya is egoism. Egoism is actually the veil that prevents us from being able to experience the divine within. It's what prevents us from having the not just knowledge or belief, but an experience of God within. Egoism keeps us identified with our thoughts, keeps us identified with mind. And by being caught in the world of change, we're constantly being pulled out of the silent stillness of the shrine of the heart, which is where our enlightenment resides, waiting for us to move our identity out of the changing world of the mind and into the inner silence. And so that's why he's saying, cease from the further penances. That happens all up here. That's beginning stuff when you're having to kind of balance out your karmas and control your mind, control your body. And to get past that, he says, and hasten to the ocean of heavenly wisdom. Touch that infinite wisdom, that chit that is within you, that intelligence that is yours by nature. That intelligence that Eckhart Tolle says is spontaneously available to you as needed in the moment. It's not referential, it's not factual. It's just an inner innate wisdom that we have that is only available to us in silence. Again, the mind will answer your questions. The mind will tell you what it thinks you need to do, motivated by egoism. As long as your mind identified, as long as you believe yourself to be the source of your thoughts. When you've done enough internal investigation, paid enough attention to what's going on inside, you realize that that's not the case, and you begin observing. And when you begin observing within many things, all those gems that Thakur talks about, that Sri Ramakrishna sings about in those songs, when he says, dive deep, O mind, find the gems that lie scattered at the depths. Those depths are behind the mind, below mind. Mind, the active mind, is the mind that has the waves in it. And as you know, if you're trying to swim on the top of the ocean, you're getting battered around by the waves, but you get down underneath those waves and you get into a silent stillness down there. So he says, hurry up, get to that ocean of heavenly wisdom, obtain from him the love of God, that in this wisdom, in this deep silence, fall in love with the beloved through the understanding of the nature of that love, which you'll encounter in that silence, which you'll encounter in that inner world. Obtain from him the love of God. Why? Because that's the pure love praised by devotees. That's the love that's going to drive your spiritual life, going to inspire your spiritual life. At this point, most of us live our lives on a line. And we've got where we are, what our hopes and goals and dreams are in the future, and we're manipulating our moment to get something in the future. And that is utterly unsatisfying and will never be satisfying because whatever you get on that day in the future is just setting you up to need to get 2 or 3 more things in a more distant future. And because anything that you try and add to yourself does not last, cannot last. You cannot take anything in this world. In this world, you can only give. And what you give from is your nature of Satchitananda, pure love, pure wisdom through pure being. And so that is our goal, and that's the way that we live. We don't live to attain anything. We live in a sheer experience of the beauty of the moment, to move as close to the divine I am, the isness, this pregnant moment, as possible, and to experience life solely in this moment, watching everything as the witness, taking everything without resistance that is given to us in the moment, and taking that and using our nature to produce beauty and put it back out to the world as worship, and then doing it again. So we live on a point in a continuous loop. So obtain from him this love of God, which is the pure love that's praised by devotees, which snaps in twain the shackles that bind you to the world, snaps you into all of these adjectives that you have gathered for yourself mistakenly by defining yourself from the outside in. instead of the inside out, right? Whenever we describe ourselves, you can see our attachment to body mind, because whenever we're writing that dating ad, for online, we always write from the outside in. I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm this old, I like this and that. And then we'll throw in some things about the mind. I'm a romantic, I enjoy, quiet walks in the sunset on the beach and several other cliches. And then we move on and wonder why we're still alone. But all of that goes on. But at some point, the sages say that you stop describing yourself from the outside in, because you realize the outside's always changing. It's never true. It's not, nothing that you can describe yourself as from the outside in remains. If I was describing myself at the age of 2, be a very different description than if I describe myself right now. And if I describe my mind of today versus 10 years ago, that also is radically different. And so how can you be something that's not stable when your sense of self is stable? What is this sense of I in you that has been stable and unchanging through your whole life? And why don't you describe yourself according to that, as opposed to describing yourself by all these changing attributes? And so we learn to describe ourselves from the inside out, but that can only be done when you go inside and you pay attention to that inner world, and you begin your discerning, you begin your observations about what goes on in here. When I'm not looking, I'm always got my back turned to my inside world, because I'm always interested in change, the glitter and flash of life. And so I have not paid any attention to my insides, to what's in there. And so he says, get in there, find this wisdom, start contemplating the love that's within you, feel it, become accustomed to it, know the nature of it, find yourself in there. Where are you when the mind is talking to you? Where are you when the body is telling you how it is, right? And so that answer to that age-old question, who are you, only happens in absolute silence, because what you are cannot be placed in words, cannot be put into a sentence, because you are not born of time, space, and causation. You are not part of the past, present, or future, and you are not acquiring anything. And so we have to learn to get a different perspective of ourselves, to understand that we already are all that we need, that our bliss is within. If we could stop being distracted from it, from the outside, and go inside and sit in silence, we will become aware of that divine bliss that is our nature. And that joy, which does not have to be generated in us, will become apparent to us, and will return to our nature, knowing who we are. And in that silence, when nothing is telling us, that is the only time when you can know who you are, because you can only know it by being. What we are can't be described. That's why they say, thou art that Tattvamasi. You are that divine. You are beyond description, beyond limit. And I encourage you to really do this work, because it's experienceable. And it's, quite often the ego likes us to make it very difficult, because the ego wants it to be so difficult that it has to help you, right? And it sees itself as the doer, and it will step in and be the knight on the white horse. You don't need that one knight on the white horse, that there's nothing to change. It's just simply returning to and becoming aware of what you have always been, and separating that out from the egoism, what is your set of limitations that cause you to be selfish, right? Because in your egoism, you're very small. You're a body and a mind. You're within time. You're within gender. You're within thought, and all of your attributes that you hold for yourself are limiting descriptions. If you're a male, you can't be a female, right? At least not without some work. If you're 60, you can't be any more than that or less than that at the moment. It's a limitation, right? And Vivekananda writes in one of his lectures, he says, this personality that you love about yourself so much, he says, when you do your discernment, you'll come to realize it's simply a checklist of limitations and restrictions. A statement of what you are and aren't, without any of the infinity. But when you describe yourself from the inside out, when you look and understand who you are from inside out, try and describe yourself from the inside out right now. And you immediately run into the problem of no boundaries in there. There's no limits in there. There's nothing to describe in there that has an actual attribute to it. So after the song is singing, the master, of course, is so deeply moved by this. It just as he says, which I would love to be there just for one of Rod Thakur's ahs. I just imagine that was such a fulfilling, deep felt satisfaction. It would have been marvelous. On hearing these verses, the master was about to again go into an ecstatic mood, but he restrained himself with effort. Right. And this is one of the things that we've learned about studying the Divine Mother on Monday night, that Mother was always in a state of self-control. She was having these same ecstasies. She was having these same samadhis, but she had to get the chapatis done, and she had to get the devotees taken care of, and she had to make arrangements for, taking care of the whole world as her children. And so she was always keeping a lid on it. And the writers of Chaitanananda really points out that's her power. That Mother was even Thakur mentions Mother is greater than he is, because she had that ability for absolute control of herself. He restrained himself with effort. Mahima read from the Yati Panchaka. I am she, the Divine Mother, in whom the illusion of the universe of animate and inanimate things is seen, as in magic, and in whom the universe shines, being the play of her mind. I am she, the embodiment of consciousness, who is the self of the universe, the only existence, knowledge, and bliss. Right? And we've talked about this, that the nature of the divine itself in its highest realization is one without a second. But when you come down below one without a second, where you actually have more than one, right? You've got Shiva and Shakti. Shiva is the unchanging absolute, the kind of the screen behind the movie that never changes. It's always the same. And it basically just holds the space for everything else. And then on the screen playing, you've got Shakti, the Divine Mother. She's the power of God. And so that moves into ourself. Remember, Swami Vivekananda had that realization that the macrocosm and the microcosm are sort of fractally related, that you can find the whole within the parts. And so within ourself, we're put together the same way. We have within us both Shiva and Shakti, both the absolute unchanging divine principle and the changing, the power, the expression of, right? The way we've talked about that is God in his ultimate sense, or that ultimate sense, is a divine principle. He's a noun. She's a noun. There's no movement or change there because there's perfection there. There's only change when there's imbalance. There's only change when there's instability or dissatisfaction. And in the divine, in its reality, it's perfect balance, perfect silence, perfect stillness. That is God in full potential. And that is, Thakur says, that's Brahman. And Brahman and pure mind are the same, he says. And so mind, when it's pure, and what does pure mean? It has no sense of me or mine in it. There's no sense of particular in it. And when the mind has that no sense of particular in it, when it has reached that silent, calm state, that is Brahman. That is God in his unchanging absolute. When the mind is impure, and not in a negative sense necessarily, but when there is an object in mind, right? So in our real nature, we're pure awareness, right? As soon as awareness has an object in it, it becomes consciousness. When you have consciousness, that's the realm of the Divine Mother. The Mother is the manifestation of the power of God. So the universe is the Divine Mother, and the universe is all in mind, right? It's in the disturbed mind, because you, who are that, the pure, eternal, unchanging absolute, you have believed yourself to be a particular. And that was such a strange idea in mind that the entire mind has to rearrange and create this illusory world that allows you to go on believing that you are separate and apart from the whole, that egoism. And so the mind of the mother becomes an illusion when you believe that you are separate and apart from it, and that you are separate and apart from God. Then this world of illusion becomes our reality, and karma becomes our nag that kind of keeps wanting to lead us back home by showing us pain when we take wrong turns, showing us suffering when we're insisting on going in a direction that's not in harmony with our nature, not true to ourself. And so that's why the sages tell us any suffering, any pain is an invitation to inquiry. Go looking inside, because it indicates you have an attachment. You are believing yourself to be something that you are not. And so that's where we don't want to get stuck. So this is the song of the Divine Mother. I am she in whom the illusion of the universe of animate and inanimate things is seen, as in magic. So she is the changing mind. She is this universe. She is the dream, right? Everything that's going on. In whom the universe shines, being a play of her mind. I am she, the embodiment of consciousness, right? So consciousness is, again, awareness with an object in it, at least one object in it, a sense of other. So as soon as we're in that consciousness, we're in the realm of the Divine Mother, the embodiment of consciousness, who is the self of the universe. She is the power of the universe. Everything moves because of Mother. All of our experiences are Mother. And in actuality, we are Mother living this life through this body-mind. Now, we've adopted an ego that we've given our name to, and we believe it to be us. But the truth of the matter is that this is the activity of the Divine Mother, where it's all of us in a dream together, as it were. And the sleeper has become all of us, has become everything in the dream. When the Master heard the line, I am she, the embodiment of consciousness, he said with a smile, whatever is in the microcosm is also in the macrocosm, right? So what he's saying is that the whole is repeated within the parts. If you're familiar with mathematics or fractals, those curly, very beautiful images that they stumbled upon sometime in the 70s or 80s when they started mapping them out on the computer, you can zoom in infinitely on any part of a fractal, and it will keep repeating itself within that zoom. But it's an infinite zoom. It never stops. It has no end to its expression. And so I
always think about, where Krishna talks about, with Arjuna, and he shows him the tree, and he thinks it's like clusters of fruit, and it's like clusters of more Krishnas. It talks about every universe has its own Krishna, and when I hear that, I think of fractals, like as above it is below, and
so it is, yes.
So I think, like, mathematically, I think of fractals as a representation of Krishna.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. God, the divine principle, the divine algorithm, repeats at every level. So every one of us contains within us the whole universe, and at the same time are a part of another copy of that same universe, just at a higher level of existence. But it just keeps, you can zoom in on it infinitely, which is why we don't go outside, why we don't go into the world of senses, and why science doesn't become a religion, right? Because you can't get there going outward, because when you go outward, it just keeps splintering. You answer one question, and behind that are 5 more questions. And that just goes on infinitely. You cannot get the answers on the outside. I've seen it in my life. They're always looking for that one particle. And every time they find that one particle, they always seem to find out that there's another 1 or 2 behind it that are smaller. And so they're always trying to run after these things.
I think they're saying, like, a human now is like, after the decimal, like 14 nines, of like 0.99999 empty space.
Yes.
I'm like with you. I think that number will be infinitely divisible, and they will never find it. Matter.
That's right, because there is, well, from one perspective, there's not such thing as matter. The scientist has not found matter as such. And so, and if it's like what the sages say, it's like a dream. In a dream, you can see everything that you're seeing now. You could be in a dream right now and see this, and it would look all as convincing. But in a dream, your wooden dresser, your wooden shelf is not a wooden shelf. It's an image in the mind made of mind stuff, whatever that is. It's a thought. And so in the dream, you could still take this piece of wood and look at it under a microscope, and it will still have cells and all of its component parts in there. But you're not actually looking at the thing itself. You're looking at the mind copy of the thing itself. And so we can't find the truth of the world through the senses, because the senses are merely they're an operating system, basically, for reality. The world that you think you live in is a mind, right? And we've talked about that quite a bit before. You're not actually in a world right now. You're in a mind right now. You're in your own mind, because the light that enters your eyes never makes it to your brain. All that makes it to your brain is that biochemical information that came from the eye, supposedly. And then the mind literally creates a symbol for everything that it sees, hears, tastes, touches, and smells. It creates a duplicate of it within itself. And that's what you're seeing right now. You're not seeing light. You're not seeing objects. You are, in fact, and this is not a spiritual statement, this is a statement of fact, that in this moment, what you are looking at is a symbolic representation of information that has come to the mind through the senses. It is not the thing itself. It is not the thing itself. And so you are living in a mind at this moment. And that's why, when you hear Jesus walking on water, or, was it Vasudeva splits the Ganges and all these amazing things happen, we always take that to be, oh, look, it's a description of a miracle. Well, it's not a description of a miracle. What it actually is a clue to the real nature of material, a clue to the fact that we live within a mind and not within a material world, not within a material world. All right, so whatever is in the microcosm is also in the macrocosm. Next, Mahima read the 6 stanzas on nirvana. Om, I am neither mind, intelligence, ego, nor chitta, neither ears, nor tongue, nor the senses of smell and sight, nor am I ether, earth, fire, water, or air. I am pure knowledge and bliss. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. Right? I am neither the prana, nor the 5 vital breaths, neither the 7 elements of the body, nor its 5 sheaths, nor the hands, nor the feet, nor the tongue, nor the organs of sex and voiding. I am pure knowledge and bliss. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. Neither loathing nor liking have I, neither greed nor delusion. No sense have I of ego or pride, neither dharma nor moksha, neither desire of the mind nor object for its desiring. I am pure knowledge and bliss. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. Neither right nor wrongdoing am I, neither pleasure nor pain, neither the mantra, the sacred place, the Vedas, the sacrifice, neither the act of eating, the eater, nor the food. I am pure knowledge and bliss. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. Death or fear I have none, nor any distinction of caste. Neither father nor mother, nor even a birth have I. Neither friend nor comrade, neither disciple nor guru. I am pure knowledge and bliss. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. I have no form or fancy. The all-pervading am I. Everywhere I exist. Yet I am beyond the senses. Neither salvation am I, nor anything that may be known. I am pure knowledge and bliss. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. Right. And so what he's doing here is really going through the practices of discernment. This is what we do when we go into our meditation and we observe the inner world, right? We first begin to become curious about, well, what am I? I'm not a body, I'm not a mind. How do you know that? Because both of those have to report to you, right? You don't know that your body is sick until it tells you that it's sick by putting a bad taste in the back of your mouth or giving you a fever or something. And the same with your mind. You don't know the moods or contents of your mind until it reports to you and tells you, I'm in a bad mood. I'm tired. Yeah, I don't want to do this. Right? But it has to tell you. You are the observer in there. You are none of these things, because they say that the ultimate reality is that this universe exists within you. You do not exist within this universe. And again, the dream analogy is perfect for understanding that. You are both in the dream at night. When you think you're a character in the dream, then you experience the dream and you're under the control of the dream. But when you know yourself, if you were to have a lucid dream and you knew yourself not to be the character in the dream, but rather the dreamer who's asleep and dreaming the whole dream, then you know that dream to be within you, that you are not a character within that dream. And that's moksha, that's freedom, that's enlightenment, because then you have nothing to be afraid of. You know the nature of the dream to be that you, no matter how many steel knives that some character in the dream stabs you with, none of them were knives. They were all simply ideas of knives. And so you being the sleeper, you being that, the container of the dream, you live fearlessly and in harmony with the dream, understanding its nature. And so there's no fear, no anxiety. You know that even if you die in the dream, that it's a dream death. Again, that none of it touches you, that you are beyond all of that. And again, all these things are experiences and direct knowledge of the people who do the work. There's no magic. There's no spells going on here. The scriptures are purely telling us, look, if you pay attention, if you go inside and you stop it with the stories and you stop running after your goals and dreams and your desires, if you stop identifying with the body and stop seeing it as you and taking on all of its commands as being your commands, and if you do the same thing with the mind, you stop taking on its commands, and you find that you place all of your knowledge of self in the silence of the heart here instead of here, then all of this becomes obvious to you. All of this will become apparent to you. But until you get out of the mind, this will all seem like a fairy tale to you. You will not be able to see it because you're trapped. You're caught in the mind. Each time the Mahima repeated, I am Shiva, I am Shiva, the master rejoined with a smile, not I, not I, thou art knowledge, absolute. Right? And why is he doing that? To get away from that sticky ego. We don't want to be identified with that particular. We want to keep ourselves with a worldview, with a universal view. We don't want to take on the weaknesses and the strengths of a particular. We are all potentials. We are every character in the dream. Right? Mahima read a few more verses and also a description of the 6 psychic centers of the body. He said that in Benares, he had witnessed the death of a yogi in the state of yoga. Mahima, there are fine passages in the Rama Gita. Master, you are speaking of the Rama Gita. Then you must be a staunch Vedantist. How many books of that kind the sadhus used to read here? Mahima recited the description of Om. It is like the unceasing flow of oil, like the long peal of a bell. About the characteristics of samadhi, he read, the man established in samadhi sees the upper region filled with Atman, and the nether region filled with Atman, and the middle region filled with Atman. He sees all filled with Atman, filled with that self, the divine spirit, the soul, if you will. That this universal soul, that in all actuality, there's not multiple souls. There's one soul, and that is divine, that is God. But we've taken a rubber band of ego and strapped that one soul over our different sets of senses. And so it looks like there's a whole bunch of souls running around, the whole bunch of us with our own soul. But what happens is when we pull that rag tight, all those rubber bands of ego pop off, and all those little nodules that were wrapped around fingers, individual fingers, pop off. And you see that which appeared as many souls is actually a singular spirit, the divine, the self, the one without a second. Right? Adar and Mahima saluted the master and departed. So there's some pretty big stuff we've kind of pushed through, and I kind of rushed over all of those verses on nirvana, just because you could do a year's worth of classes on any one of those stanzas. But does anybody have a question or a concern so far, or something that might be helpful to get answered before we keep jumping forward or going anywhere? All right. Good. Then boldly forward we will go. So this idea of Om, of the divine, the divine presence, it's like the unceasing flow of oil. You know, when you're pouring oil from one container to the next, there's no splash. You know, if it's poured steadily, just silently and steadily goes from one to the next, but there's nothing else involved. He says that Om is like that. God is like that, flowing noiselessly through all of this. You know, like the string attaching all of the pearls on the inside, or it's like the long peal of a bell. You know, that long. Right, and each creation is like one strike on that bell. Right, and what is that sound that we're hearing? That's word. You know. So that word is both God and it's with God, right? Just like we find in the book of John, when he starts, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So this vibration, which is Shakti, which is mind with objects in it, which is the power of the Divine Mother, that realm, that Om, is that manifesting sound, that manifesting vibration. About the characteristics of Samadhi, he read, the man established in Samadhi sees the upper region filled with Atman, the nether region filled with Atman, the middle region filled with Atman. He sees all filled with Atman. Now, what is he saying there? Well, let's go back to our dream. You know, it's looking at the dream when you know that you're dreaming. And so if this was my dream right now, if I was asleep in a bed and I was dreaming about doing this class, but then I had a lucid dream, I knew that I was aware that I was dreaming, then I would know that I'm seeing a chair, but implicitly I would know that there is no chair there, that this is a dream, and what I'm actually looking at is mind stuff or God in the form of a chair, right? And so I would understand all of that as I looked around, and I would understand that none of this is real, that what is real is that upon which it's being projected, pure mind. The mind with no objects, the mind with no sense of particular in it, the universal self, the one without a second, right? But that only becomes clear when we let go of attachment, when we stop thinking our thoughts are our thoughts and private to me, when we stop thinking the body is mine and belongs to me and then it's who I am. When that begins to break, then the hypnotization breaks, and we stop listening to the mind's description of the world, and we begin to experience our own existence, which is infinitely more silent and more subtle than what's going on up here. At noon the following day, after his midday meal, Sri Ramakrishna was sitting on the small couch when Ram, Surendra, and a few other devotees arrived from Calcutta. They were worried about the master's injured arm. The arm was bandaged. M was also present. Master to the devotees. The mother has put me in such a state of mind that I cannot hide anything from anyone. Right? There was no sense of a separate self. There was such a purity of honesty. He was what he was. He said what he said. He thought what he thought. There was no sense of having to hide it or control it or manipulate it or pretend it. Right? The mother has put me in such a state of mind that I cannot hide anything from anyone. Mine is the condition of a child. Rakal doesn't understand it. He covers my injured arm, wrapping my body with a cloth, lest others should see my injury and criticize me, right? Because there's some people that would be like, well, if he was a holy man, he wouldn't have gotten hurt. If you get hurt, that means karma, and it means bad karma. And if you've got bad karma, how can you be a good holy man, right? Because they had no understanding of karma, no knowledge that karma has nothing to do with what happens to you. Karma has everything to do with what you're able to do with what happens to you, right? So I'll just throw that little statement in there again. It's from Swami Prabhupada, his teaching directly on karma, that karma is not what happens to you. You know, what happens to you is neutral. The universe happens, you know. Volcanoes blow up and bury you in ash. What to do? It's just a fact of being. It doesn't mean you were a good or a bad person. It happened. And so karma isn't about that. Karma is saying that your destiny lies within you right now. And in this moment, you are the master of your future, right? That the entire past has given you this moment. And from this moment comes all of the infinite projections of the future. And so all of your power is here and now. And so dwell here and now. Take what is happening to you by the universe, accept it, don't resist it, take it and apply your divine nature to it, Satchitananda, you know, love, wisdom, and being. Apply that to whatever the universe is giving you in the moment and create something beautiful and give it back to the universe and start again. And that's life, right? Karma is not a matter of describing why we are where we are. That just turns you into a victim, right? People who think that way, you hear them say that, oh, it's my karma, what to do, right? You become a victim of your karma. That's not why the sages told us of karma. Karma is just a theory, and it's a theory given to us to be helpful for getting out of this dilemma, for finding truth. And so always be in this moment. Don't try and figure out somebody else's karma. Don't ever use karma to describe somebody else's condition, for two reasons. Well, the primary reason is you look like an idiot. None of us knows even 2% of all the variables in a person's life that has made them what they are. And for us to sit there and say, oh, look, he's that way because of his karma, he deserves it. You're just being an idiot. You're being absolutely, well, not just an idiot, you're being a very mean idiot, because you have no awareness of what has made them what they are. And it's not important to what has made them what they are. What is important in a person is what they can do with what they are, right? So a person with good karma, and I'll remind you of that story again, even though it's so many times, until we get it, we have to keep hearing it, you know, this okay, maybe not. Mother just took that whole package right out of my head. Left me with nothing but whispering air. I was like, okay, well, maybe that's not the point we're going to go into. All right. Mine is the condition of a child. Rakal doesn't understand it. He covers my injured arm, wrapping my body with a cloth lest others should see my injury and criticize me. He took Dr. Madhu aside and reported my illness. But I shouted and said, hello, where are you? Madhusudan, come and see, my arm is broken. Right? So Rakal's trying to keep it hush hush, not let anybody know that the holy man actually has a broken arm. And at the same time that Rakal's trying to hide it, Ramakrishna is running from the other side of the room. Hey, look, come look at my arm, it's broken. Check it out. Look at it, you see? No egoism. No need to be something different than he was. Just absolutely pure. Just I am what I am, and that I know what I am, that I'm love and I'm wisdom. And it's manifesting in this I am. It's manifesting in God. And he just had that joy and that bliss about being. So come and see, my arm is broken. I used to sleep in the same room with Mathur and his wife. They took care of me as if I was their own child. I was then passing through a state of divine madness. Mathur would ask me, Father, do you hear our conversation? Yes, I would reply. Once Mathur's wife became suspicious of his movements and said to him, if you go anywhere, he must accompany you. So she wasn't trusting her husband and was telling her husband, anywhere you go, I want Ramakrishna to be with you because I don't trust you to be anywhere on your own. So she assigns him a chaperone. So Ramakrishna is now assigned to follow Mathur around. If you go anywhere, he must accompany you. One day Mathur went to a certain place, and that's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge place, an unmentionable place here. So one day he goes there. He went to a certain place and asked me to wait downstairs. So Ramakrishna says he went to this place, and he just told me to wait downstairs while he goes up and takes care of business. He returned after half an hour and said to me, "Come, father, let us go. The carriage is waiting." When Mathur's wife asked me about it, well, I reported everything absolutely correctly. I said to her, well, we went to a certain house, and he told me to stay downstairs, and then he himself went upstairs. And then about a half an hour later, we left the place. And of course, she understood the thing in her own way. A partner of Mathur's estate used to take fruits and vegetables stealthily from the temple garden. When the other partners asked me about it, I told them the exact truth, right? So that was his nature. That was his, and he's going through a mood of this, at this particular moment where he simply, Mother is really putting him through that purity gamut, as it were. And so he's in a state now where he can only tell the truth. And so he says it like it is and puts it out there. All right, Sunday, February 24th, 1884. Sri Ramakrishna was resting in his room after his midday meal, and Mani Malik was sitting on the floor beside him when M arrived. M saluted the master and sat down beside Mani. The master's injured arm was bandaged. Master to M, "Hey, how'd you come?" M, "I came as far as Alambazar in a carriage, and from there I walked." Manilal, "Oh, he's so hot." Master with a smile, "This makes me think that all these are not mere fancies of my brain. Otherwise, why should these Englishmen take so much trouble to come here?" Sri Ramakrishna began to talk to them about his health and his injured arm. The master, "Now and then I become impatient about my arm. I show it to this or that man and ask him whether I'm going to get well again. That makes Rakal angry. He doesn't understand my mood. Now and then I say to myself, oh, let him go. Again I say to the mother, Mother, where will he go? Why should he burn himself in the frying pan of this world? This childlike impatience of mine is nothing new. I used to ask Mathur Babu to feel my pulse and to tell me whether I was ill. Well, where then is my faith in God? Once I was going to Kamarpur in a bullock cart, when several persons came up to the cart with clubs in their hands. They looked like bandits. I began to chant the names of the gods. Sometimes I repeated the names of Rama and Durga, and sometimes I said Om Tat Sat, so that in case one failed, hopefully another one would work. So there it is. Learn all the names of God. That way, if one doesn't work, maybe one of the ones that you hit will do the trick the next time. No, that's, of course, I mean, it's a humorous thing, but it just really shows that, in Thakur's mind, all these differences were the same. That's where he got his knowledge that religion is one, that it is the Sanatana Dharma, the eternal religion, and that all religions, all the world's great religions, are just a facet of this singular gem called the Sanatana Dharma. And that through any religion, you can enjoy that gem in its entirety through that facet. But that facet is not the whole gem. It's just the particular place from which that gem is being appreciated, whether it's through Christianity or Islam or Buddhism or atheism or science or whatever your path of knowledge is going to be. All of them are fine. Be earnest and sincere about what you're looking for, have that dedication to truth, that dedication to love, right? Those are our guiding principles: love, earnestness, honesty, straightforwardness, sincerity. Did I say that one? Love, sincerity, truth. And those are the most important things. That's what we stick to. Those are the tools for coming to the realization of what we are inside. So let me turn off the recorder here.